Hey, everybody. Afternoon session, September 18th, the market update desk with Scott Riley, NMLS 157524. We got the much anticipated, very nervously awaited Fed decision, and it just came out just a very brief time ago. Wanted to give you a rundown of that. So the Fed enacted its first interest rate decrease since the early days of the pandemic. And what did we get? We got a deduction of 0.5%. Now that was, the big question, would it be a quarter and a half? We got our answer, and it was a 0.5%. The central bank's decision on lowering the rate by half a basis point, by 50 basis points, really does show their concern mostly on the labor part of the dual mandate. Outside of the emergency rate cuts during COVID, last time the FOMC did a 0.5 point cut was the 2008 global financial crisis. Now that was one of those previous ones that we've talked about where they did a 0.5 point cut. The committee indicated through its dot plot the equivalent of 50 more basis points or a 0.5 point by the end of the calendar year. The matrix of individual officials expecting another full percentage point in cuts by 2025 and a 0.5 point by 2026. So that's 1.5% more down by the end of 26. That should bring the benchmark rate down 2%, or between 3.5% and 3.25% and 3.5%. That's kind of what we've been looking at, the definitiveness of what the committee was looking for their terminal rate. Now, this vote, unsurprisingly, came in at 11-1. Who was the dissenter on the 50 basis point reduction? Drum roll, Michelle Bowman, the one who probably has the least amount of actual banking experience. She only wanted a 0.25 point. It's not surprising. We thought she would be a holdout for the quarter. Now, going through some of my notes here, in assessing the state of the economy, the committee judged that job gains have slowed and the unemployment rate has moved up but remains low. FOMC officials raised their expected unemployment rate this year from 4% to 4.4%. That means we're still going to they're expecting us to tick up 0.2 higher than where we are right now. We've been talking about, excuse me. We've been talking about that the unemployment was probably drastically undercalculated by the Fed in their expectations over the last 6 to 8 months. And this this points to the fact that they were off. So they're talking about 4.4%. If that's the case, that's why we're going to see more continued rate cuts. On core inflation, the committee took down its projection of 2.6%, a 0.2 percentage point reduction from June. The committee expects the long-run neutral rate to be around 2.9%. So they are going to see showing that it's going to make it tough for us to get progress substantially because the replacement costs are just hard to get through, and shelter cost and motor vehicle increases are just outside of their control. So they do see a longer path to where they want to try to get. Now, GDP, we talked about this morning with retail sales. The Atlanta Fed specifically now has increased their projections for Q3 GDP to 3%. And that's on the strength of continuing consumer spending, which does surprise us. But the concern that the Fed is going to have is continued increase in GDP is going to run kind of counterintuitive where they're trying to get inflation. Now, for the moment, at least, the move has helped settle the contentious debate over how much the Fed's going to move and when they're going to move and how fast. So we got a 0.5 point. We want to break that down. We'll do more analysis tonight. Senior analyst Mr. Gibson's all over it. He's working hard right now. Actually, I think he's taking a nap at home. So want to get that out to you. We got our 0.5 point. We do see the 10-year bond actually tick up 0.1 to 3.67. Mortgage-backed securities retreated back just a smidge. And why was that? We've talked about it because the market had already factored in 0.5%. So we had all this information already factored into rates. That's why you don't want to wait. You want to act right now. Hope we find this helpful. You have a great afternoon. Scott Riley, the Market Update Desk, your singular original news source for West Michigan, 616-293-2189.